Well, good evening. About to fall out. Good evening. I'm Larry Souter, and welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. We're coming to you from Bixter Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, Facebook. Some of you are watching through praiseandharmony.tv, and some of you are listening by way of radio through the facilities of World Christian Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us as well, and for this live audience. If you'd like to be a part of our live audience, come join us right here in Bixter Chapel, 6:30, first Wednesday of each month at the Madison Church of Christ. We'll be glad to have you. Well, our theme scripture always comes from Romans 8:38 through 39 from the New Living Translation. And I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love. Neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow. Not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love. Our guest tonight, I've known for 20 years. We're not buddies, but I've had a good association with you for the past 20 years. I have done their shot and edited their fundraising video, their development video for World Christian Broadcasting. And Jesus is preparing rooms in heaven for all of us, and on Charles's door it's going to say, a good man is in this room. Charles is a good man. He's married to Kathy Caudill for 63 years next month, right? 62 right now and holding. President Emeritus of World Christian Broadcasting. He's a native Tennessean. He's been a former executive with Travelers Insurance, owned an insurance business in Texas for 15 years, been a church elder. Named Friona, that's how you pronounce that? Friona, Texas, Man of the Year. In Friona, Texas, I looked up, is the cheeseburger capital of the world. Amen. And that's correct? Yeah. And they have at least 3 fast food places there that sell cheeseburgers, and that's good. Maybe. He was elected mayor by write-in vote. He retired at age 50 in 1988. That didn't last long, and this is where his story of amazing grace comes in. That retirement lasted for 9 months, but God had other plans for Charles, so he began working at World Christian Broadcasting in 1989. He eventually became the president of World Christian and oversaw not just 1, but 2 powerful Christian broadcast facilities in Alaska and Madagascar. And we'll find out more about Charles right after this video. Take a look.
We've been on the air since 1983 from KNLS in Alaska, and since Easter Sunday 2016 from Madagascar World Voice.
Hello everyone, I'm Rob Scobie, Senior Producer of our International English Language Service. Today we'd like to invite you to take a short tour of a place where many of us spend a lot of our time, the Charles and Kathy Caudill Operations Center in Franklin, Tennessee, near Nashville.
Charles served as our president, Kathy his assistant until the end of 2017. Under his leadership, World Christian Broadcasting put Madagascar World Voice on the air to give this ministry a worldwide radio presence. Broadcast production happens here, so come on in and experience the source of our sound.
كما أنه أيضا اتكل على غناه.
A new study from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration
establishing churches in parts of the Middle East.
让中国教会，让全球的教会。
The Portuguese serves broadcast most to Brazil.
Как может кто-либо иметь жительство на небесах, если никогда там не был?
Bringing hope to one seeker is what it is all about.
Each language service produces 7 hours of programming per week. That's 49 total hours of fresh new programming. It's here at the Caudill Center that they're put together and made ready for broadcast. In our lobby, you'll see the tools our listeners use. While some listen via their phones and computers, most use shortwave radio sets, from the old to the new.
Thank you for taking our short tour of the source of our sound. If you want to spend more time, please come and visit us in Franklin, Tennessee. We know that God and His Word are the original and ultimate sources of our sound, and we need your help to keep it coming. We do thank you for your prayers and your support.
And please welcome Charles Caudill. Come on up. Careful. Have a seat. Thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And for filling in at short notice. Thank you very much. Well,
For you, Larry, I would do anything.
You saw the video.
Yeah.
You saw this Russian guy.
I did.
The rumor is that he is a spy, that he is an agent for the KGB. Is that correct?
That is the rumor.
Yeah. Tell me the truth.
I'll tell you the truth.
Okay.
But
this is kind of an inside joke with World Christian about Konstantin Chernyshenko, right? Something like that.
Konstantin Chernyshenko, Dr. Konstantin Chernyshenko. He, have you seen his license plate?
No.
You need to find his license plate. It'll probably give you a little bit more.
Or does it say CCP on there?
It says CCCP.
CCCP?
Yeah.
Okay. Not Corps of Engineer on this one, is it?
No.
Okay.
But he is probably one of the most loyal, dedicated people that we have at World Christian.
Now tell me how he came to the United States.
He is, as I mentioned, he is a doctor. He was educated in Russia. He came after Perestroika. He came to the United States and to further his studies, and so God sent him to Vanderbilt. While he was at Vanderbilt, he on Sunday attended the Harpeth Hills Church and met Wes Jones, who was a director of follow-up for World Christian Broadcasting. And they became very close friends. And Wes led him to Jesus. And shortly, the next time he went back to Russia, he was baptized. And so Wes started using him to voice some stuff for him. And he has a great voice. And so he ended up being the person that we needed to head up our Russian department. And so he is a senior producer.
And I think that just shows the dedication of the staff, and they all got maybe stories, something.
Every one of them has a story.
Either that or you're paying so much money there that he could make a whole lot more doing radio than being a doctor.
Amazingly, there's very little turnover there, and it's because of the dedication. It's not because of the great money they make.
Let's talk about Charles now. How did God prepare Charles for World Christian Broadcasting? Did the insurance business prepare you?
Well, I think it goes back farther than that. I was the seventh child of 8 children.
Yeah.
My father had. His first wife died very young, and so he remarried, and my brother and I were born to the second wife. I think living in a large family like that prepared me for a lot. Then in school, I attended what was then Sumner County High School. Now it's Portland High School, but that school is the oldest high school in Sumner County. And I think playing sports has a lot to do with preparing you for just about anything, especially in a leadership role. And I played all the sports.
But you played baseball. That was your favorite?
Yeah. I was, the school didn't have a baseball team, so I played independent ball, which back then every town had one, and this one happened to be a part of the American Baseball Association. So it was pretty good baseball. I started playing with the big boys when I was 14. I was a little guy, but anyway, I got to move up. When I was 17, I was taken by the Baltimore Orioles, and was invited to spring training that year. And because I was 17, my father had to sign, and he wouldn't do that. He said, "You got to go to college." So I ended up going to Lipscomb on a baseball scholarship. Right after Lipscomb, I went into the Army, and I probably learned more about how to work with people in the Army than in anything else I did. And when I came out, got to work with the Travelers, and shortly became within, let's see, 7, 8 years, I became the youngest manager they had. Kathy and I were sent to, and our kids were sent to California. I had started in Nashville, went to Knoxville, went to New York, and from New York to California, and also did some work in Hartford. I was to be transferred back to the home office as an officer, and decided we didn't want to do that, and bought an insurance agency in Friona, Texas. Small town of something over 3,000 people. But it was the only agency in the county, so that made it pretty handy. So after 15 years, sold the agency and came home and retired. I think all of that wandering around and in various leadership positions, both in high school and in the Army and in college, and I think I didn't know it at the time, but God was preparing me to do the work that I did with World Christian Broadcasting.
In relating to people?
Yeah.
And asking for funds?
Yeah. As working with the Travelers, I didn't have to ask. I was in a program that was very unique. It was a 44-month training program, and I got to choose what I wanted to do after those 44 months were up. They stopped that training program pretty soon because people were so well trained that they were getting a lot of money to go somewhere else, but I stayed with the Travelers. Having that insurance agency, I had to, if I was going to make money, I had to go sell it. So,
but you weren't searching for any job in the religious organization?
No.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my father thought the greatest thing that a kid could do would be prepare to be a preacher. He was a longtime elder and leader in the church in Portland, and that's the last thing I wanted to do, was to be a preacher. I wanted to play professional baseball, and that's a long way from being a preacher, and he thought it was a long way from being a preacher. So,
yeah. Well, tell me about World Christian Broadcasting. A little bit about the history of it.
It was started. We like to say the founder was Dr. Lowell Perry. He and Maurice Hall probably had as much to do with founding World Christian Broadcasting as anyone. Those were the two main people. You may have heard the story of Maurice when in World War II about Stalin and Roosevelt and Churchill.
Through 5.5 years of war, we have long awaited this moment of the Churchill-Roosevelt-Stalin meeting, the Grand Alliance. Let a quotation from the communique issued from Yalta speak for us all. It is our inflexible purpose to destroy German militarism and Nazism and ensure that Germany will never again be able to disturb the peace of the world.
Maurice was a lieutenant in the Army and was given the job of providing this shortwave communication equipment so Roosevelt could talk back to the White House. And after he got to thinking about that, he thought, why couldn't that be used to spread the word around the world? If it can go from Yalta to...
All right, so it was used in the military, and he thought, why not use it for something else?
Yeah, and he had been a preacher, a Church of Christ preacher before he went in the military. And they decided it could be done.
First station went on the air in Alaska?
1983.
1983.
Yeah.
And the devil's advocate over here, hey, we got computers, we got cell phones. Why in the world do we need shortwave radio? Who listens to shortwave radio anymore?
I doubt if anybody out there listens to
Before you answer that, let me show you a picture and show you a graphic.
All right.
Number of radios. 3 billion shortwave radios in the world. Is that correct?
That's
as far
correct.
As you know?
Yeah.
1 billion shortwave radios are turned on at any given time, right?
That's right.
3 people on the average are listening to each radio.
Right.
Not in this country.
No.
But
I doubt if any of these folks, many of them probably have never even heard of shortwave radio.
Let me show this next one here. This is a computer usage map. Where it's red, it's active. Where it's green and yellow, they're active. Blue is getting much less usage, and dark black is nothing.
Right.
Africa, nothing. Somewhere over here is North Korea.
Australia has little.
Australia.
In the middle, yeah. Eastern Europe, especially the Siberia and that part of the world.
So you're saying that because computer usage is not prevalent here, the best way to reach these people is
shortwave.
Shortwave.
That's why we do it. We originally went on the air to reach those countries that no missionaries could not go to. And so that was China and Russia. That's why we're in Madagascar, in Alaska, because we could reach Russia. It's right across the...
And the other station is located here.
Yeah, right there.
And we shouldn't
It
say
reaches
exactly where it is, should we? Because there might be repercussions.
Yeah. We have been more free with that lately, but early on we just said we were in the Indian Ocean. We didn't say where we were, and that's because it's so close to Islam.
Yeah, but the station here reaches
the rest of the world.
The rest of the world.
KNLS reaches.
Which is Alaska station.
Yeah.
And this one is Madagascar World Voice.
MWV.
Let me see next slide here. This is a 1040 window. Tell me what the 1040 window is.
Contains most of the people where there are no missionaries. There are fewer missionaries in that part of the world than anywhere else.
So Christianity is weak.
Weak, very weak there.
This area.
And as you can tell, it's in the northern part of the Islamic part of Africa, and it going through China and all the way. It's all the way around the world, and so we reached that part of the world completely.
And this next one here, there are more people living inside this circle than outside of it. More people in that circle than the rest of the world. And this is an area that World Christian is reaching, correct?
Yes. We here in America we don't think too much don't think at all about shortwave radio. Obviously, there are 3 billion people that do. They think enough of it to buy a receiver. It's hard for us to realize how prevalent shortwave is in other parts of the world. That's how they get their news. That's how they even get their entertainment. So it works. And we also do the internet also. I know there's a lot of black there, but there's a lot of light there. But only about a bit more than 20% of the world has the ability to receive internet.
Really? But you're on the internet as well?
We're on the internet as well.
And it's 60 minutes of pure preaching, right?
Nope.
No? What is
it? They're in a little 3 to 5 minutes sections. An hour program is made, and then it's played over and over for that day. But there may be 3 or 4 minutes of sports.
Maybe highlights from your baseball era.
Absolutely, yeah. There weren't too many highlights of that.
So we got some sports. What else do we have?
Well, we have Bible readings. In fact, the Chinese have just recently translated the entire Bible into Chinese, and they read it. They read it every day. Rob is responsible for a lot of music and different kinds of music, not necessarily religious music, but pop tunes. But what we do is we try to gain an audience through the music and the other information, and then we tell the story of Jesus.
So you're hooking them with all these music and other things, and then you slip in some Bible in
That's
there.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Is it working?
It works.
How do you know it's working?
By the letters we receive and by the emails we receive.
Tell me about the letters you received after the fall of the Soviet Union.
You know, for the first, I guess, 7 or 8 years, we wondered if anybody's listening, because the places we were going were Russia and China. They couldn't write to you. They couldn't admit that they were listening to a religious programmer. And so then the wall came down. And we were World Christian Broadcasting was the first entity outside of Russia that had a program on Radio 1 in Russia, which is the one that's hardwired into the homes in Russia. And so immediately after a few of those programs, we received better than 50,000 letters. But before that, we weren't sure.
Very few before then.
Yeah, they were usually smuggled in somehow. Some came from, some Chinese ones were sent to, were smuggled out of China into New York, and then somebody from New York would mail it. We got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, something like that, but not very many.
Your English language producer, Rob Scobie, sent me a YouTube video clip a couple days ago of a listener in China. And he showed his radio and all the colored lights and all that, and you heard the World Christian Broadcasting announcers on there, including Larry Souter. Come on.
There you go.
So you get to hear yourself in China.
Yeah.
Now, some of those listeners are people who just enjoy tuning in to the receiver and getting what's called a QSL card,
right,
which lets them know that they have received your station.
That's right.
How do you know there are some other people out there? The letters and...
can I tell the story of Gracia Burnham?
You tell that, then when we play the video, yeah.
Okay.
Lead up to the...
Okay, Gracia and Burnham and her husband, Martin, were missionaries in the Philippines. He was a pilot, and he flew supplies and that sort of thing to all the missionaries throughout the Philippines. Well, they were celebrating their 18th anniversary, and they were kidnapped. They were at a resort place, and they were kidnapped. And so for a little bit better than a year, they ran with Abu Sayyaf, which is part of Osama bin Laden's folks, except they were
in the jungle.
Pardon?
In the jungle?
Yeah, in the jungle.
Okay.
And they were running from the Philippine soldiers, and so there was shooting, and so how far you want me to go with this before you show that?
And then, she was in the jungle, and they happened to have a shortwave radio, and
Martin asked the leader of the Abu Sayyaf to borrow their radio. They wanted to listen to something from America.
Besides these kidnappers.
Besides listen to those kidnappers.
All right, let's play
that. Let us have the radio, and we just sat huddled over the radio, tuning things in, sitting in our hammock, and came across KNLS out of Alaska.
If God is for us, who can be against us?
And this guy was giving a little sermon about when people go through a hard time, and if you could hear Christ in the next room praying for you, you would not fear 1,000 enemies. And that just did our heart such good.
Martin and Gracia Burnham's ordeal is finally over. The American missionaries were held hostage in the Philippines by the Muslim rebel group Abu Sayyaf for more than a year. Martin Burnham was killed during a rescue attempt by the Philippine Army, but his wife Gracia survived.
After a struggle with God, I decided, okay, I'm going to believe what I know to be true. If God is for us, who can be against us? I've loved you with an everlasting love. And I just made a choice. I didn't feel that way, but I made a choice to believe in what I knew to be true from God's Word.
There's one listener for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And, as far as we know, they're all over the place. How many of these folks have ever written to a radio station? We get lots and lots of letters, as they say, but how many listeners are indicated by one letter? It could be hundreds. And so we're encouraged every time we hear something like this.
Tell me about Madagascar World Voice. That's been a dream for many years. It's now a reality.
Long time.
How did God work with that? How did God provide land, station, people?
We had just completed doubling the size of KNLS, and we decided, okay, it's now time to try to reach the Arabic world. And so I asked Kevin Chambers, who was our chief engineer, vice president of engineering. We knew from the computer that the best place for a station to reach where we wanted to go, all of Islam and the rest of the world that we're not reaching now with KNLS, we knew it was somewhere in the Indian Ocean. That actually came down in the ocean. There was no land where that came down. So I asked them to go to Mauritius, the Seychelles, and because it was in between those, and just check to see if there's a place in either of those islands that we could build a station. They called me back and said, well, just to make a long story short, there was not a place. But they said, we're fairly close to Madagascar. Would you like for us to go there? And I said, no, they're having, shows you how smart I am, they're having problems with their elections and that sort of thing. There'd been some shootings, and so no, come on home. So they did. Well, I learned from a guy in Abilene that there was someone who had worked with the government of Madagascar, and I said, well, we'd like to see if we can't get a station built in Mauritius. He said, you'll never get it done there. But what about Madagascar? I said, well, they're having all kinds of political problems, and he said, not anymore. They have a democratic president, elected democratically, and he said, I can get you in front of him if you'd like to talk to him. And I said, yeah, let's do it. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in front of the president of Madagascar, and we'd done a little workup, put it on a computer to show him who we were and what we were doing, and opened that thing up, and he was watching it, and then he closed it, and I thought, well, that's the end of that. He didn't like it. He said, come build your station. Beat, beat, beat.
Which means?
Hurry, hurry, hurry.
Hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yeah. He was a Christian. He was an elder in the Presbyterian Church in Madagascar.
Is that a God thing?
It was a God thing, yeah, yeah.
Help to visualize what you're talking about here. This is the Madagascar meeting.
Right.
And that's the president in the back here. The next shot here is of the president. These are video clips, so the quality is not great.
That's the memorandum of understanding where we promised that we would build a station, and that's the guy over there is the deputy prime minister, and they signed to give us permission to build it and give us the land.
And the land was free?
Yep. I think we paid $1 a year or something like that. We haven't paid that in a long time. But
wow. How many acres are?
About 80 acres.
80 acres.
Yeah.
And the next shot here, we have 3 men.
The guy in the middle, of course, is the president of Madagascar. The other guy beside myself is Earl Young. Earl Young is the guy I called in Dallas that put me in touch with the president, and he has been extremely, extremely helpful to World Christian Broadcasting ever since.
So everything was going well. It was a God thing. You got the free land, you got the president, everything's going fine.
Yeah.
And then it was a devil thing that came in.
That's right.
He was out of office.
They put a gun to his head and send him out of the country.
And the hopes and dreams of World Christian Broadcasting, what happened there in Madagascar?
We laid low for a while because anybody that had anything to do with the former president, Mark Ravalomanana, was verboten. I mean, we had an attorney that had helped us. They kicked him out of the country. We kept our people. We just laid low.
But you had delay after delay after delay trying to get this station on the air. And didn't you feel like giving up, that God wasn't behind it after all?
I never had any thoughts about giving up. I knew it was the right thing to do, or I felt it was the right thing to do. So, and we had spent quite a bit of money up to that point, and we just didn't want to give that away. So we just hung in there. We had 4 containers sitting on the 40-foot containers sitting on the dock in Tomatov, which is over on the east side of the country, and we couldn't get them off because we were who we were.
How long did they stay there?
They were there better than a year.
Over a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Kevin Chambers, our engineer who was overseeing the building of it, we talked, and so I said, come on home. So he came. He lived in Alaska, so he came home to Alaska. We sent him back, and he got delayed. His travels to Madagascar was through Thailand, and he met a guy who was also delayed, but he was going to Madagascar. He was going to be a consultant to the new president of Madagascar. Kevin told him about the containers, and he said, I think I can help with that. Kevin got back to Madagascar on a Sunday. On a Monday, he got a call from that guy. He says, send your trucks up there to get those.
So you got setbacks, the devil set you back, but God kept pushing you forward.
He fixed it.
Now, you had a storage facility that had a bunch of radio equipment in there that you needed to put this station together, and it was vandalized.
Destroyed, yeah.
Destroyed.
Better than $100,000 worth.
Setback after setback.
Yeah, and we had insurance on it, but the insurance companies said it was an act of war because it was sort of a civil war, I guess. So we just had to eat that $100,000, and it took. You know how long it takes to get $100,000 worth of material back to Madagascar, get them on a ship. And
you had a delay with the transmitter as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
In Texas?
Yeah.
The transmitter that you had purchased and were going to ship over there.
It had already been paid for, as a matter of fact.
Already been paid for, sitting wherever. Yeah. It was sold out from under you because they needed to get rid of it because you weren't using it. But
they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us that. They just thought it was going to be forever before we got. So when we said go, there were no transmitters there.
But with all those setbacks, God was still working.
He fixed it.
But it was, from my perspective, it would be hard to see. But He is working, but it's hard to see. It's that undercurrent, God is still in control.
Yeah, I think He just wanted to make sure that we remain faithful.
Yeah. Wow. What's the greatest challenge you have? Money?
It's one of the I'd say that station cost something over $11 million. I felt all along that we could raise the funds to get that done, and there's some God things involved in getting that $11 million all together. But it's paid for. My concern is raising enough money to keep it going, keep both those stations going, and so that's a hard thing to do.
Electricity.
Yeah.
Where does electricity come from?
We build our own electricity in Madagascar.
You have generators.
We have generators.
How much does fuel cost? Come on, tell us.
Well, it costs a whole lot.
But you can't depend on electricity from Madagascar.
No.
You got to generate your own.
No. They even shut down part of in the city of Antananarivo, which is a couple of 100 miles away from where we are. They even shut down part of the day for the electricity. So there's no way you could run a radio station with that kind of situation.
To me, one of your greatest challenges would be to convince people about what shortwave is.
Yeah.
I think when you hear shortwave, you think of a 50-year-old man sitting in his basement with a bunch of radios talking on a microphone, CQ, CQ,
yeah.
you know. But you have this multi-million-dollar complex in Madagascar and Alaska that's transmitting around the world.
That's right.
But I'm not sure.
And millions are listening.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about it. You asked what the next biggest thing is. It's more languages.
Okay.
We can reach the world from where we are right now. We don't need any more stations. We can reach the world. But we need to do it in more languages, and that costs money. And so the big problem is going to be raising the money and finding the people who can do. Our next one we would like to do is Korean.
Let's show a map here of Korea. South Korea is lit up here.
Yeah, it's here.
North Korea is dark. So the only way to reach them is through shortwave radio.
It's the only way.
Now, do we know they have shortwave radios in North Korea?
They do, but they can't listen. They're not supposed to listen to us. We have gotten one or two letters out, not coming through South Korea, but through China. That's our next theme, I guess. Other languages too. Right now we broadcast in 6 of the 8 most spoken languages. Early on, the idea was that we would use the languages that are most spoken. The 6 of the 8, the 2 next most spoken are Indian languages. And we use English there because they're taught English in schools.
And you have several listeners in China, I assume, because just the fact that you got so many people there.
Yeah.
And India is the second most populous.
Yeah, country. And soon will be the most populous. It will surpass China.
You ready to take some questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Let's see if we got a few comments or questions concerning shortwave radio and World Christian Broadcasting.
And I came to hear Buddy.
I didn't hear you.
I said, you do not look like Buddy Ray.
Thank you.
But I think you should say what he meant. Buddy's contribution, he's been very, very instrumental in working with you.
He was on our board for a number of years. And
let me stop you there just a minute. The pre-show comments I had, which our YouTube audience did not hear, you're kind of a fill-in guest for Buddy Reagan, who was scheduled to be here tonight, and he's was very heavily involved with World Christian Broadcasting on the board of directors for a number of years, and with media for many, many years.
Exactly. So
he's asking about his contribution to World Christian. So go ahead.
It was a huge contribution, and was one of the most important things he did was, and Larry was involved in that, was a television program that we made for the Russian people.
Sacred Treasures, Sacred Roots.
Yeah. Sacred Treasures, Sacred Roots. And we were allowed to have private entrance to the Hermitage, where the great paintings that Russia has. They used those paintings and then told the story of those paintings, and then it was shown throughout Russia. The Russians didn't know the biblical stories behind those paintings.
They just thought they were nice paintings.
Yeah, it was great paintings, but
the prodigal son, or Jesus on the cross, or just whatever.
They didn't know what it meant. We were able to tell that story, and it's still being shown, I hear.
Really?
Yeah.
Very good.
So Buddy produced that. Larry was the videographer, and Konstantin was the host. But it was all done in Russian.
Correct.
Couldn't have done it without Buddy.
Charles, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
A scripture that you gave me when I was asking for some information about you was from Jeremiah 1:5. Before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you. Pretty much fits your life, doesn't it?
Well, I like that scripture.
Yeah. And you said, I believe God shaped us in a specific way for a special purpose only each of us can fulfill. Our life should be spent looking for that purpose and then doing our best to fulfill it. That's pretty good advice, too. Thank you, Charles, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and we invite you to share your story of amazing grace with someone this week. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us.